Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's segment of Star Watch, which is a weekly astrological transit report. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jane. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super happy to have you here. Let's not waste any time. Let's just go ahead and get right into the charts for the week. We're going to talk about the week starting June 1st, right? Wednesday, Mercury Day, Astrology Day, starting June 1st and moving forward to next Wednesday. So let's take a look here at the chart, right? So we are in Gemini season. Now, I feel like a lot of people have been kind of disillusioned a little bit by this particular Sun through Gemini energy, right? Because as much as the Sun wants to go and move and create, we have some counterproductive things going on, which kind of makes us feel like we have all of this wanting, all of this desire to do something, but maybe not a lot of direction in terms of what exactly to do. I said last week that Gemini season is very much about choices. We had that new moon on Gemini a couple of nights ago, and it was about choices and it was about options. But a lot of people are sitting in front of these choices and they're like, yeah, I could make these choices. I could go down this road. I could go down this other road too, but I really don't know which one feels truly best. And I think one of the main reasons for this, of course, Gemini being ruled by Mercury, we have this Mercury stationing direct this week. It's going to officially be going direct on the 3rd at 26 degrees of Taurus. And there is this quality of Saturn because it's in the Saturnian decan of Taurus as well. Plus, this is in a square with Saturn over here in Aquarius, which is stationing retrograde. So these planets are kind of like, right, here's Mercury retrograde, here's here's Saturn direct. They're kind of coming there and then they're stopping together and then they're going to start moving apart from one another. And this week is just kind of like that consolidation week of this stationing direct, stationing retrograde, and these planets just sort of letting us just be out on a limb here and letting us just face reality to some extent, and especially because Saturn is so strong here. He's really ruling the show. Mercury, again, in the Saturnian decan here. So, I mean, Mercury has to play by Saturn's rules, and this is really not the rule book that he likes to play by. So in terms of figuring things out, in terms of knowing, right, which is a very mercurial kind of thing, to be able to see the dots, to be able to strategize and to find a path, like he's just sort of kind of stuck on this boulder, which is Saturn, right? He's stuck on some kind of a rock and he's not really able to truly move yet. He's not able to really see. And yet at the same time, it does afford us an opportunity to be able to really confront some maybe potentially really harsh truths about some things. Saturn is, he's always there to like really just be real with us and to, like, he doesn't care about our egos. He doesn't care about our feelings. He doesn't care about what we want. He doesn't care about like our warm and fuzzies. He's just going to kind of come and say, look, like this is the harshness of the reality of the situation. This is where you are. It doesn't mean you're fated to be there. It doesn't mean that you have to stay here. It just means you have to acknowledge what it is you have to work with in this moment in time to be able to prepare for what's truly coming next for you. And, sometimes we don't need to know what's coming next in order to know that certain things need to be adjusted. And I do think that adjustment is a part of the conversation this week because we have Venus here very strong in her domicile, right? Here she is in Taurus, beautiful Taurus, in her Venus decan. And she's just really ready to, she's also in her term, right? Her Venus term as well. So this is what I was talking about last week. It's just like Venus all the way down. This week she's scoring really high at a 10, meaning she's very strong. And so she's kind of here to say, okay, like I know that this is where we are, but let's just breathe for a minute, okay? Because she wants to luxuriate here. She wants to relax and take her time and indulge and sleep in and eat amazing food and have amazing sex. And she wants to just be like, she just wants to be in this moment. And because there's this kind of contradictory energy of this, like not being able to see a path, she's kind of allowed to do that. She's allowed to just sort of be in her element and to just to not necessarily push forward with things. But I think this is the break that we needed coming off of those eclipses, because those eclipses in May were a lot. And, we just had that new moon in Gemini, which means we had the first lunation after the eclipses. And so we really are coming out of that season. And we're building up to a full moon in Sagittarius. Okay, today we've got the moon in Cancer, but we are building up to that full moon in Sagittarius, which we'll talk a little bit more about next week. That's happening at the 23-degree mark in Sag. And that's going to be in a square with Neptune as well. So that'll be a really potent moon to its own degree. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But this moon energy is it's waxing now. We're breathing and we're starting to feel like our energy coming back a little bit, but still we're just kind of recuperating. And I think it's important to allow ourselves to recuperate or to regroup and just kind of gather our senses a little bit and to not overthink, because this Mercury retrograde, I don't even know. You could overthink, but it's like while you're overthinking, how unproductive it is. You'll be sitting there thinking about stuff and you're like, why am I even exerting any effort right now? I'm coming to zero conclusions about things. Now, you may have some insight, you may have some powerful, desires that kind of come into your heart or enter into your mind and whatnot, but the execution of those things is still kind of on hold for the next couple of days. You may really feel on June 3rd when Mercury goes direct and June 4th when Saturn goes retrograde, you may really feel a shift at that time and you may feel like the easing of things a little bit as, we make our way into Monday and Tuesday of next week and say, okay, now I feel a little bit more secure in making a choice. I feel more secure in making a commitment of some kind. I feel a little bit like I've got my bearings here. But for now, I really would just recommend, just kind of allowing yourself to be in that state of adjustment. Now, as I kind of look through on the score here, actually, you can kind of see so June 1st, we've got Venus scoring at 10. So she's officially the strongest. And then we move forward. She's still at 10 on June 2nd. She's still at 10 on June 3rd. She's still in her, her domicile. She's still in her deacon. She's still in her term. And then we kind of make our way into the weekend, June 4th, the day that Saturn goes retrograde in the Venus deacon, nonetheless. And he is kind of now, for the day, surpassing Venus in her strength because she officially moves into the mercurial term. Now, remember when I was doing this last week, so I normally have the deacons presented, but when I move into the terms, we can see here she is now officially moving into the mercurial subset of Taurus here. Okay, and I'm going to put it back to the deacons just because I just want to stay there, but just so you know that transition does happen this week. But then she does continue to stay strong throughout the week as well, kind of in a tie or head-to-head with Saturn. So we've got this Venus-Saturn thing going on now. Saturn is officially retrograde on the 4th, and Venus is here. He's in the Venus deacon. So there's this Saturn-Venus thing going on. There's this Saturn-Mercury thing going on. And we're just kind of in this place of transition, even though we might not necessarily know exactly what we're transitioning towards or into at this point. And over the weekend too, as Venus kind of comes into this 9-10 degree mark, she's also going to be coming into a conjunction with Uranus over here at 16 degrees of Taurus. Now, as she approaches Uranus, this is a very crapshoot kind of transit that I'm having a hard time myself really committing to an interpretation, if I'm being totally honest, because on one hand, I see that things could vastly improve to some degree. I see potential for something amazing happening. You earn some money, or some money comes in, or you meet somebody romantically, or something really incredible could happen. But then also on the other side, it could be very chaotic, as Uranus often can be. All I know is that Uranus offers volatility, and volatility can go up and it can go down, and it's really hard to predict, especially when Uranus is so close to the north node here at 22 degrees as well. They're not technically like right on top of each other, but there is involvement. And as Venus comes closer to Uranus and eventually conjuncts Uranus and then moves between Uranus and the south node next week, there's still going to be like all of this like really uncertain, strange energy, because Mercury hasn't quite entered into Gemini yet. Mercury's not re-entering Gemini until the 13th. And so he's still under this influence of Saturn a little bit. Saturn still has a little bit of a hold on him. Plus, he's still like very weak in the chart as well. We've got a very weak Mercury. And he's just not like really doing the work that we need our Mercury to do. He's just going a little bit slower than normal. He's not really offering up a ton of information. He's being a little too real with us, maybe a little too harsh with us. And he's being a little too lazy to some degree, because the sun over here is just like still wanting to fully express this beautiful giant Gemini energy. And it's wanting to, really explore, and there are just things that are kind of hindering that to a degree. Now, again, a lot of that is choices. It's how you choose to perceive things at the same time. If you can lean into this interesting time, we'll call it that, if you can lean into this interesting time with a lot of things up in the air and very little certainty, and you can treat this like an adventure, which is very full moon in Sag in a square with Neptune type stuff. It's just like, all right, life is a mystery. Let's just accept the mysteriousness of it. Let's just pick something, or let's just stay still. It doesn't really matter. That's the thing, is I don't know how much it matters what we choose right now. And I know that we all have these, bigger visions of our lives, but the path is still like, it's kind of just, it doesn't matter. The path doesn't matter. The choices don't really matter. As long as we're aligned with our intentions and our goodness and our light and our connection with the divine, as long as we're coming from that place, we're going to be able to get to where we're going on any path, right? There are many, many paths to the destination. And so some people are going to handle that really well, and they'll be all up for it. And then other people are going to be like really scared and really worried and really nervous and feel very debilitated. And, that Venus in Taurus is just going to want to stay in bed a little bit, and she's going to want to just sort of, watch Netflix and eat some good food. And that's fine too, if that's really what you need. If that's really what you need, if that's what your body needs, if that's how you need to really rejuvenate, then I say, why not, and allow the volatility to just sort of pass you by. And when she makes her way onto the other side of that north node, I think there's going to be some likely some movement and adjustment there. Because again, this Saturn retrograde, especially this weekend, right, as we have the moon coming through Leo, there is fear. I do feel like there is fear that's present. And we may have some kind of an illumination of that fear to some degree. We have this notion that if we were to put ourselves out there in that way into this great mystery of life, and this instability that is inevitable when we do that, right? Because it's like we know that when we move into an unknown place, that we could have the rug pulled out from under us, and that is a very real possibility. Or we could massively succeed, and then what would that mean? And so any and all fears, whether it's a fear of success or a fear of failure, I don't really know which is which, but whatever it is, we are going to have to really confront that, and again, choose to overcome that to some degree. And we may have to just do that internally first, right? And maybe it's just more a matter of that stuff coming into our consciousness first before we actually can act on it, before we can make those choices and start, solidifying things. We also have this Mars coming into a conjunction with Chiron. Specifically over the weekend, we'll probably start to really feel that. And as we make our way early on into the week. Now, again, we still have a strong Venus and Saturn still kind of like right there with each other. And as Mars makes its way to about the 10-degree mark, this is next Tuesday, so this is later on. We'll talk more about this again next week. But this is a very interesting transit as well. And especially because this is happening with a moon in Virgo in aspect with Chiron. This is a quality of pain and suffering, and a lot of insecurities and a lot of feelings of doubt can really come through a Mars conjunct Chiron. And when those types of emotions are coupled with a Venus-Uranus conjunction, things can kind of go askew, or there could be, there's a potential for certain choices and certain decisions to be made from impulse, from reactiveness, from being triggered. And that's probably not the best place to make decisions. That's probably not the best place. This moon in Virgo wants everything to be perfect. It wants us to be the best. It wants us to really shine, especially at the 15-degree mark. Again, this moon sitting in the Saturnian decan of Virgo at this time. Now, again, the moon moves quickly, so she's not going to be sitting here all day. She'll be moving on, but, major influence next Tuesday will be the Saturnian energy and the perfection portion of this archetype. And when we have those notions of wanting to do it right the first time, and we don't want to make mistakes, and we do want to be perfect, and we want to show up as our best possible version of ourselves, and we do really want to be able to be seen and appreciated and celebrated, right? That's a very Virgo thing, is yes, you want to be of service in the world, and yes, you want to give, and you want to be relevant, and you want to provide value in the world. But when you have these fears and these insecurities, it can be a little debilitating, and it can prevent you from really showing up in some way. And so this is again another choice to say, how am I going to choose to show up? Am I going to let these insecurities really determine and really dictate whether or not I am going to succeed or not, right? And Mars can really amplify the effects of Chiron here. And again, like if we are in that place of fear and insecurity, and someone says something or someone does something, or we have an interesting relational event that happens with Venus conjunct Uranus, some kind of random occurrence, or especially because this is happening in the Mercury decan. So there can be something communicative that happens, some kind of a conversation that occurs, or some word that someone uses that really could just like flip a switch, and boom, all of a sudden we are like in our exposed wounded child, and like, blah, here it is, right? It's just all out there for the whole world to see, and it can be very vulnerable. And from that place of vulnerability, if we are making major life decisions in that state, it can be probably not the best situation. So we want to be able to take a step back, because remember, this is all happening in Aries too. Not only is it Mars conjunct Chiron, but it's in Aries, which is Mars ruled. And that is, very impulsive, compulsive even, if you will. And it can be very spontaneous and very reactive and volcanic even. And it's just sort of, it has a potential to be fiery. Let's just say that, to potential to be fiery. Mix that with the unpredictability of Uranus, there just could be a lot of really interesting things that happen. Now, not for everybody. I'm not saying that everyone's life is going to be turned upside down or whatever. It's just, you may notice that with other people, or you may see that like on the news, there may be some pretty significant event, or there may be some, something going on around you within your neighborhood or something like that, especially because the sun is, in Gemini. There's a very neighborhood type of quality there. And I do think it has a lot to do with communication and specific relationships, probably more one-on-one relationships if I'm being totally honest with you, but there could be a community aspect as well, or like a neighborhood quality too. So just kind of saying, just because the sun is in the Venus decan at this point, in like the Libra decan, and we've got Venus involved, we got Saturn and Venus, the Venus decan too. So there is that like quality of the scales and the one-on-one relationship. So just saying that. So for those of you who are in marriages or in romantic partnerships, you know, this may be a week of vulnerability for you, because or your partner, maybe not for you, but maybe for your partner. So it's a matter of taking a step back, right? Take a step back, breathe for a minute, breathe, and just before you speak, before you have those conversations, before you sit down, just really think about what it is you really want to say. Don't do it from a reactive place, because if it is reactive, the consequences of that may be a little bit too much to really deal with, okay? Now, we do have Jupiter still sitting in the Mars decan of Aries, right? Sitting here at 4 degrees. He's doing okay this week. Actually, let's kind of go back a little bit. We'll kind of go back to like, I guess it doesn't really matter. All right, we'll put it back to Friday, which is the day that Mercury goes direct. We do have him sitting here at 4 degrees. We are building up to the Jupiter ruled full moon next week on the what day is it? The 14th, actually. 14th, actually the day after Mercury moves into Gemini, 23 degrees. I think he's just kind of sitting around waiting for that. I'm being honest with you. Jupiter is just here saying, you know what, I'm gonna keep my sights set high for now. Let's just, like, there's a lot of lower level mundane, right? That's very Saturnian. There's a lot of mundane, everyday type of stuff sort of stewing and brewing, and you know, there's a lot logistically that we haven't quite figured out, but I'm going to keep my vision high. I'm going to keep my dreams high. I'm going to continue to shoot for the stars, at least in my heart. Like, if I can't do it in physical form right now, if I'm struggling like with choices and whatnot, at least I'm going to keep my energy right. I'm going to keep my mind aligned properly right here. And when the opportunity strikes, I'm going to be prepared for that. You know, when something comes into my heart that is strong and clear enough for me to interpret and for me to be able to grab onto and run with, then I will. Because he's all primed. Here he is in Mars domicile. He's really operating according to Mars rules here. And so like Mars he just really wants to go. But he's offering the philosophical approach to things. It's like in the morality and the goodness and the ethical qualities of things. So he's a little bit more high-minded than impulsive Mars. So he's kind of pacing things a little bit. Now, even though Jupiter loves to indulge and there is a decadence with Jupiter as well. And I think actually maybe right now the decadence and the luxuriousness with Jupiter in Aries and Venus in Venus in Taurus, you know, there is this, you know, aspect of indulgence within yourself, indulgence within your kind of more primal desires, you know, like again, eating and moving your body and having sex and you know, just kind of even shopping as well with Venus and Taurus, and you know, just kind of like enjoying you being human being, you enjoying the humanness of things that can be going on, but also still there's that pull toward the philosophical approach. There's that pull toward high level thinking and high level desires and the ultimate desires. And you know, I think Jupiter really he does offer us that, you know, the breadcrumb energy of like, okay, if I can keep my energy right, if I can keep my mind right, if I stay toward things that are positive and stay towards things that are good, and I stay optimistic, then I know good things are going to happen, you know? And so that kind of energy develops a lot of momentum. And when we have momentum with that kind of energy, opportunities do show up. So opportunities that are showing up for you are not accidental. They are not coincidental. It's because Mars and Jupiter are like, we got to stay really, really, really on this Jupiterian level. We really do. And that's good. I think it's going to open doors for you eventually. Maybe not this week, but eventually it will open doors. Eventually you'll start seeing the benefits of all of that stuff just sort of flooding in. Maybe not this year, even maybe next year, as Jupiter officially comes all the way through Aries and then in May makes its way in through Taurus. I think that Jupiter through Taurus transit next year is going to be very interesting. I think that's really going to be the time when a lot of things start coming to fruition for a lot of people. And that's, again, Jupiter coming into a conjunction with Uranus next year there will be some stuff for sure. But I think for us as individuals, as long as we're setting the tone of everything right now, could be some really beneficial things. Like I say, Uranus is a crapshoot. I don't ever know how to bet on Uranus. I honestly don't. It could go so far either way. It's just, especially when the nodes are involved right now, it's just like, I don't know, whatever. It's just Uranus. Let's just like let it pass, and then we'll interpret it after it's over, and we'll see how it went. Because it's hard to place a bet. But there could be huge wins. You never know. Huge wins. And if you're a super risky person, you may really enjoy kind of the energy at play right now with Venus conjunct Uranus. And then we still have Pluto just sort of hanging out, doing his thing. This weekend we're going to have the moon coming into an opposition with Pluto as well. I think the moon really setting the tone in a more subtle way this week. She's kind of just sort of taking a breather. I think she's happy to be making her way into Sag. I think she's happy to be kind of through those eclipses and no longer with the stress or the strain of those eclipses. She feels like she can breathe a little bit. And so our inner world, our inner body, even our physical body is kind of in that state of recuperation. If you did go through a powerful shock or a powerful shift, even between the last eclipse that we had, when was that last eclipse? On the 16th of May. So we had the 16th of May full moon eclipse in Scorpio. And then on May 30th, right, a couple days ago, we had that new moon in Gemini. So if something substantial happened in that 2-week period, this is like recuperation time. And truly allow yourself to just kind of feel your way through these things, and to allow your body to fully process what happened. As she's in Cancer, Thursday and Friday, she's going to be in aspect with Pluto, which asks us to alchemize and to transform our initial responses. That's the word I'm looking for. To transform our initial responses. When an event occurs, we have to process. And once we process, we get to choose consciously how to interpret and perceive. And so I think this is really about perception right now. This is really about how are we going to choose to interpret this? What meaning are we going to choose to assign to things? Because again, Jupiter in Aries, let's just go ahead right away and assign the best possible meaning to things. Choose to see it from the best possible perspective. Choose to see it as something that was beneficial for you. Okay? And really just allow that to be the case, because anything hurtful or harmful or victimized or whatever, anything like that is not going to benefit you in this really weird time with Saturn and Mercury completely standing still in the sky. Now, don't forget, there's still that very harsh reality of things with Saturn square Mercury like this, both standing still. It's a very harsh reality, very harsh truths coming through. So I'm not saying to be in denial, right? But it's about consciously interpreting things as like the universe looking out for you. Okay, really the universe is looking out for you. I think that's pretty much the bulk of it for the week. We'll talk a little bit more about the full moon coming into that square with Neptune next week. I think that's going to be, I don't know, it has the potential to be a very optimistic time, which will feel really good as well. It will feel as though we are coming back to ourselves a little bit. We're returning to who we truly are or who we truly want to be. And when I say returning, I don't mean like you're going backwards in terms of your development. What I mean is you're returning back to your truest self, which is kind of, again, unlocking and peeling back layers of restriction, peeling back layers of fear. Also, same thing next week will happen. Mars with that conjunct Chiron. Like I said, we'll talk more about that next week as well. But we are starting to feel the effects of it. I usually start to feel the effects, like I always say, about 5 degrees from the planet. So we're really going to start feeling that this week, near the end on Monday and Tuesday of next week. And we'll feel that exposure. But sometimes that exposure is the layers being peeled back. We're becoming more authentic. We're becoming more real. We're becoming more honest with things. And when we come to that place, we have the opportunity to become more whole. And when we are more whole, then we can more sophisticatedly, that's a word, with more sophistication, make these decisions and choose the path that seems right. And the thing is that right now, we're only going to be able to choose the path that seems right. There's not going to be that sense of knowing. There's not going to be that sense of surety. So this is what I'm saying. Those of you who are like totally okay with the mysteriousness of life, this is going to be great for you. For those of you who are not okay with the mysteriousness of life, this is not going to be super great for you. So it really just depends on how well you embrace those kinds of things. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the week. I'll kind of leave you guys there. A lot of cool stuff happening, lots to pay attention to. But I truly wish you guys nothing but the best. You guys know I love you. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.